All right, here on Patriots Corner Podcast today, I'm host Matt. As you guys know, I am podcasting today with former United States Navy SEAL Jeff Byers. Jeff, what's going on, man?
Matt, doing well, brother. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Anytime. I'm pumped that you're on the show. You have a lot that's going on with you right now, your company, and we'll get into that later. But I definitely want to know where it all started. Now, Jeff, you're a former United States Navy SEAL. Where did this, idea to join the military? Because I did my research. And
Okay.
you have always been very into the United States military.
Yeah, so where did it start? That's a good question. I think everybody has that desire. Well, the guys who become SEALs have that desire when they're younger. For me, it was kind of if I'm being completely honest, kind of a misguided youth. I wasn't the best student in school, smart, but, kind of distracted and had a tendency to get into trouble. And then I had a great family. I had a great support structure. My dad he was a ranger in Vietnam.
Oh, wow.
So he Army officer, and he kind of, saw where things were going and nudged me in that direction. And so I guess my senior year of high school, I started taking a serious look at it. I went to a year of college and decided that wasn't exactly what I wanted to be doing. So, yeah, about 19, I went to Buds, and that was 22 years ago now.
Wow, and congratulations. Why did your dad not gear you, or did he try to gear you to join the Army? You say, he was a Ranger. That's amazing. I've never had any Army Rangers on the show. I would love to interview one, though. But why pick Navy over Army?
Well, he wasn't specifically directing me towards the teams, more directing me towards the military.
Okay, I got you.
Some discipline. But yeah, so I knew he was a Ranger. I looked at that briefly, but just the teams, there was a lot of, they had a lot of appeal at the time. They still do, obviously. Can you hear me, Matt?
Of course, yeah, you're fine. Yeah, everything sounds great.
Cut off. And yeah, so
Wow,
19.
that's amazing. So when you got to Buds, because everyone that I talk to always, says the same thing. You could train and train and train, but it's something you really can't train for until you actually get there.
Right. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And they've actually, you have to really want it. It's not that you have to be able to run a 4 miles in a certain amount of time or swim. It's that you have to do this stuff every damn day after day, and get your nuts kicked in and just and tolerate it. And that's what a lot of people can't do. So you get people who are incredible athletes who drop out, and you get guys who are not mediocre in terms of Buds, not the strongest athletes who graduate and are very successful. So
now was there ever a time where you just kind of said to yourself that because it is a 6 months course, isn't it? And that's just Buds.
Well, yeah, that's Buds. So if you do day one, well, it'd be a little longer your class than that. But if you do day one, you don't fail anything, you don't get injured, and everything goes perfectly, it'll be just over 6 months. Now, the majority of guys aren't going to finish it in 6 months. I got rolled back. I had a broken leg. It took me 8 months. So, yeah.
Now, when you got rolled back, what was that like for you? Because I'd imagine that'd be kind of bad sounding, because you already went through all the training, or a large majority of the training, and then now you do have to restart when you get rolled back, right? For everyone who's listening who doesn't know what we're talking about, Jeff.
Well, yes and no. It depends on where you are when you get injured. And I was, I guess, fortunate when it happened to me. I was in the third phase, so the last 2-month block of training. So when I got hurt, it was, a couple weeks into third phase. So essentially I was able to recover, heal up, and then I just rolled back into the next class and finished those last 2 months.
Wow. And after, while you were in Buds, was there ever a time where you kind of just wanted to quit, and where you just said, this is just harder than hell? How you were saying, get, day after day, getting your nuts kicked in, just
Mm.
training balls out. Was there ever a time where you kind of said to yourself that you might not want to do?
No, no, never crossed my mind, and I wouldn't imagine that if you ask most guys who are team guys that it ever crossed their mind either. Um, and so getting back to what you said earlier, I think it's interesting because now they have a lot more structure trying to bring the kids into the teams and when they get to buds and training them and trying to prep them for the course. And it's interesting because what they're finding is, I mean, they're getting a lot of interest and they're training these kids up. But at the end of the day, like today, the graduation rates are the same as they were when I went through, and they weren't doing that sort of thing. So that just, I mean, it's evidence that no matter how hard you train and prepare for it, it's ultimately, how much do you want it?
What was the toughest thing during Buds that, I mean, you still remember today as being the biggest,
Uh,
obstacle to overcome?
the toughest thing, it's the whole thing just cumulatively. It's just all of it together, constantly and never ending for that period of time. The cold water's horrible. I went through Hell Week in February, so that was miserable. Um, but overall, it's just getting beat down every day. Truly,
And
I mean, there wasn't one evolution that I struggled with.
yeah. And is that just, the mind just kept you going? You kept pushing, or how did you manage? Because that's not something that the everyday
Mhm.
man could do, go through Buds. And I could only imagine, you know,
Yeah. Well,
what it
so
was
it
like.
turns out, I mean, you make these incredible bonds and relationships with these guys because they're very similar, and it ends up being, I mean, uh, it'll sound weird if you haven't done it, but it ends up being fun because it's so dicked up and so ridiculously,
Yeah.
just miserable. So I think that helps at some point. You just start laughing about it, and okay, we're gonna sit in the surf for an hour today, and then run with the boats for 2 hours, and then you just your mind goes into autopilot at some point. You just do it.
Yeah. Now, after graduating, what was that feeling like at graduation?
Yeah, graduation was great. I was 20 when I graduated, so 19 when I started Buds, 20 when I graduated. My dad was very happy to see that happen. My mom too. So my parents were both there, my brother, and yeah, it was a great feeling. And for everybody, obviously.
And what was after that? What happened after that? Did you get assigned right away to your team, or?
So yeah, I got assigned to a team, and then so that was SEAL Team One, which is literally like 400 yards from Buds, just down the beach. So I checked in. Well, you do jump school, you do some other like pipeline training stuff, the Army jump school, and then you get to the team, and then everybody who's new, there must have been probably 10 or 12 of us at that point. Um, they have it's STT, SEAL qualification training. It was STT, then SEAL tactical training, but then that's another about 6 months of more advanced training, advanced from where we were at that point, before you go into a platoon. So you've got another 6 months of advanced training, and then once you finish that successfully, that's when you'll actually get your trident and then go into a platoon.
And when that happened for you, what was the feeling knowing you just became a part of one of the most elite societies and brotherhoods in the world? Because it's, and it's just, so, from me reading, from people I know, from reading books that, guys like you have written, seeing documentaries, it is just so amazing. And I would love to know what that, overall feeling is like.
The day you got your tridents, it's a big day. It's probably bigger than Bud's graduation, honestly. And I mean, you get to breathe a little easier that day, I guess. There's a lot of drinking and having a good time. No, it's definitely an exceptional feeling. And then, but it's weird because every step of the way through training, Bud's graduation, and then once you get your trident, but everything just keeps continually progressing and getting more challenging. I mean, all the trainings more involved and more technical, more complicated, and the stakes are obviously much higher as you progress. So yeah, it's a great feeling. You take a breather, and then everybody's professional, and you start moving on to the next thing.
Now, what team were you assigned to, and what if you can tell us what position did you hold in your specific team?
Yeah, I was at SEAL Team One for the entire time I was there, and now I was the communicator, so two platoons. And now this is going back a while. So when I was in, and this isn't the case today, and I feel like an old fuck telling you this, but the radios were really heavy, and you had numerous pieces of equipment you had to take out. So, I was responsible for that. I mean, it wasn't the small secure communications I had now. You're probably carrying 70, 80 pounds of comm gear every time we went out in the field.
Yeah, and you were just the communications man, in charge of everything that went on between guys stationed somewhere else, or when you were completing a mission. I know I'm not going to ask you about missions you've
So when we
completed,
were on,
but
yeah, essentially how it works, I would coordinate all the communications. I mean, you have inter-team communications, which are just a small radio, but then you'd have, if you're talking to air support or the task force or, the FOBs, whatever we're doing, I was handling all that communication with the our platoon leader.
wow. And I don't know if you're able to say, if not, you don't have to, but as a SEAL, you've, I'm sure, been all over the world.
Uh-huh.
And
So, yeah,
well,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Yeah, that's
Well, I was just gonna say, so my time in the teams, I was in the teams for like 5.5 years, and then I got out in '01 before 9/11, and then just a few months before 9/11, then I was in the reserves then at that point, but then in 2002. I won't get too specific with this, but then in 2002, I started contracting
okay.
for the DoD, Defense Department. And I still do that. I just got back from Baghdad about a month ago.
Okay.
And so I've been doing that, shit, 14 years now.
Wow.
And yeah, so at this point, I probably got 2,500 days deployed.
Wow. Congratulations, Jeff. That's amazing, man.
Oh, it's not, I don't know if that deserves a congratulations or a visit to a psychologist.
Well, I mean, that's just, it's just very, just honoring to hear and satisfying to hear that, men like yourself are able to go out and at a moment's notice and do what others are nervous or overthink or scared to do. That's where I'm coming from with that. I mean, you're a brave guy, and it's honor to speak with you always. And when you're over there, what is that like wherever you're at? And because when I spoke to Rob O'Neill, he said that I asked him the question. I know that it's big to try to blend in, and he said that you're never going to be able to fully blend. They're always going to know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess it depends on what environment you're operating in, because yeah, you're right. You're never going to blend, and sometimes when and this has been my experience and guys I've worked with, when you try, because the indigenous people know their own, and when you try to blend in, then you just look really, really suspicious, and that'll draw even more attention. So generally what we do is just, we're obviously Westerners depending on the environment and what the operation is and what we're doing. But it's been my experience that yeah, if you're trying to blend in, but you're still doing stuff in the populace, that's going to cause some problems for yourself.
Yeah, and I do want to ask you something also. Uh, I'm a big fan of Fox News. I'm a conservative. They just came out with a report that they handed, I think close to $3.2 million to a couple of engineers, and they're attempting to build a Star Wars style laser. Now I had to like double look this because I didn't know if it was bullshit or if I didn't know if it was real. And I definitely didn't want to look like a fool or sound
Uh,
like a fool asking you this.
uh,
But what's your take on that? They're saying that this laser weapon is going to be designed to shoot down missiles.
okay. I mean, that's just the evolution of the defense technology, the weapons industry. I guess I don't. To be honest with you, I'm not familiar with it. It doesn't surprise me. Um, I, I just hope, if it's going to protect us and going to be used correctly, then I'm all for it. But to be honest with you, man, I just don't know a whole lot about it. I'd have to look at the article.
Yes, I understand. Do you feel that the president's doing a good job trying to up and increase the military? I don't want to get political with you. I don't know your political preference. I'm a Trump supporter myself,
Mm-hmm.
but what's your stance on his latest military style tactic and upping the military and increasing? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, we'll see how it all unfolds. Obviously, I'm hopeful and optimistic, I mean, he's obviously very supportive and much more so than the last president, which I wasn't a fan of, and I am a Trump supporter and voted for him also. Um, but yeah, we'll see how it all unfolds. I like the fact that when Owens got killed, he was at the funeral, the ceremony immediately after that. Um, he does seem to show a lot more respect to the guys and the sacrifices that are made. And I know most of my coworkers share that opinion.
Now, when you mention Ryan Owens, also
Mm-hmm.
you him being one of your brothers, what was the feeling like? Not to get too negative with media related stuff, but when
Mm-hmm.
that guy Michael Moore came out and said that total bullshit about Donald Trump and going and mentioning his name and trying to gain publicity, is that
Mm-hmm.
just is that the fuel that just kind of sets the fire for you, or is I'm sure it had to infuriate you.
Yeah. So Michael Moore's a great example of people who can. Oh, that's a hypocritical statement coming from that fat fuck, and it's also it's pretty self-serving. It is just an indication that people can now say and do things without any consequences, and then he's made a living out of it. So
Yeah, and that's just horrible shit to say. Exactly, coming from him and because it's and everything that's going on within the country now, and it's always the same people and complaining and having all this stuff to say, but then when you talk to someone like yourself who's actually been in situations, that's where
mhm.
I feel I find the
Yeah,
real
but I mean,
truth.
Matt, that stuff's so prevalent, depending on who you're talking to, that I mean, there comes a point where I mean, you just it doesn't affect you anymore. I mean, like, you can't hang your hat on all that stuff. I mean, I've been there. My buddies have been there. People in the military have been there. I mean, we know what's really going on. So,
Yes. Now, I do want to talk about what you got, your stuff you're doing right now. Uh, Frog Fuel, man.
hmm
That's really cool. You're the owner of the company, aren't you?
yeah, I own Frog Fuel along with my partner Alex. Alex is a team guy too. We were at SEAL Team One together. Alex Tunes,
What?
and so
Yeah, tell us about that. I'm excited because I'm always seeing, for everyone listening, also you are on Instagram, and I will make sure I put the at sign at
yep.
Frog Fuel. But tell me about that, please, because I'm not too familiar with it. But I always see you guys got cool stuff coming out, and I know a lot of you know whether it be bodybuilding workout. Navy SEALs I know use it. That's very, very cool. Yeah, please tell me about that.
Yeah, so frog fuel. Frog fuel is, and this may seem biased, but it's also the truth. The frog fuel is the best protein product you can buy. Now, frog fuel, we started this out as it started as a licensing agreement. I had a buddy from that 1 year of university that I attended, so it paid off or something. But we stayed friends, and he was a medical sales rep. So he's got this product. It's this liquid protein. They sell it to hospitals, nursing homes, wound care, all kinds of different things. And he reaches out to me, is there an application for this on the military side? Alex and I talk about it, and we start licensing it as frog fuel. So we now own both frog fuel and the medical side of the company. So the product was initially and still is today, a medical food. We sell it under, if you go to Prot, P-R-O-T, gold.com, that's the medical label. And then frogfuel.com is the sports nutrition side. But this protein it's super advanced. A fellow named Ed Walker, Stanford PhD biochemist, helped develop it. He formulated it. And it's a liquid collagen-based protein. So it's really high in certain amino acids, arginine, glycine, proline, and these are ones that help with tissue repair and wound healing. And then collagen naturally is lacking in some others, methionine, cysteine, glutamine, tryptophan, and we add all those back into the product. So it's a complete protein. It's a liquid, so each 1 fluid ounce has 15 grams of protein plus another 1,200 to 2,500 amino acids, depending on if it's a protein or the frog fuel. So each ounce has total protein, about 16 to 17 grams of protein per ounce. There's no sugar in it. There's no fat in it. There's no carbohydrates in it. There's no gluten, lactose. The hospitals love it for a number of reasons. There's no allergy concerns with it. It can be used with other medications. And the big thing is two things. It's digested 100% in under 15 minutes. We break it down with the fruit enzyme. Now we did our digestibility study. That's on the website. Optimum Nutrition's Whey Isolate, which is the best selling protein powder anywhere. So we did a digestibility study against their product. 15 minutes, we're 100% digested. They were less than 1% digested at the same time. And I mean, that's important because when you take a shake, like a whey shake or anything in liquid form, it's going to pass through your gut, your small intestine in less than 90 minutes. So you have to be digesting and absorbing the protein you're taking. So that's a big distinction. And so the other thing on the medical side with our product is it heals wounds, and this is proven too. So 3 servings a day, it'll heal wounds twice as fast as if you're not taking the product. So wound care centers, pressure ulcers, so people who are bedridden, have bed sores, post surgery. It's just a super, super strong and efficient protein product. So that's frog fuel and protein. That's the genesis of it. And frog fuel is now the sports nutrition side. And like I said, our protein gold is the medical side.
And that's more so like a recovery, like if you lifted weights and then took it afterwards, or...
Correct. Yeah. So and on the frog fuel side, just the pure protein formula, that's the original frog fuel product. The formula is nearly identical to the protein, and that's great for, like you said, strength training at the gym and recovery. And we've also got, on the frog fuel side, we got a product called the Ultra, and the Ultra is a pre-workout and endurance fuel. So it's got less protein, but it's got carbohydrates, and it's got some other amino acids, beta-alanine and citrulline malate, and some electrolytes for like endurance and strength pre-workout stuff.
Wow, that's so amazing. Now, is anything big news related, coming out new with frog fuel, or anything coming up in the future?
So I mean, we're doing stuff all the time. We're rolling out to, let's see, hopefully in the next 30, 60 days, we'll be doing Safeway and I think Albertsons Group. But Albertsons encompasses a lot. I don't know. but that's going to be in the Southwest in a couple months. Um, Frog Fuel side, we picked up another big distributor nationwide. Alex and I are flying out to a trade show in Minneapolis for that next week. Yeah, I mean, there's stuff going on all the time.
That's awesome. That's so cool to hear, Jeff. Now I'm excited to look into more for purchasing some for myself, and that can all be purchased where at? I want to make sure people know that's on your
Yeah.
website.
If people, yeah, you can go to Amazon. If you got Prime, you can get it in 2 days. But if you go to our website, frogfuel.com, and I'll give you guys a discount code. But if you go to frogfuel.com, products are all there. And if you enter Verge of Greatness, all one word, capital letters, VERGEOFGreatness, that'll give you 10% off and free shipping.
Badass, man. You're the man. That's sweet. That's awesome. Cool.
Hell yeah. All right.
Wow. Well, hey, Jeff, thank you so much for being on Patriots Corner today. It's been an honor speaking with you, hearing your story, and, the motivation that you had and you gave to the listeners now. And it was cool to hear what's going on with Frog Fuel, man. That's badass.
Hey, Matt, I appreciate it. Anytime, anything, just let me know. It was my pleasure, and I hope everybody has a great day, week, month, year.
There we go. Jeff, you're the man. Thanks so much, my friend.
You got it, brother. Take care.
Take
Out.
care.